Hi everybody, I'm Museum Associate Joanna Abijaoude. Welcome to another FIDM Museum Collection Conversation. I am thrilled to go live today with my colleague Leigh Wishner, and she'll be joining us in just a second. Hello!
Good morning, Joanna.
Good morning, Leigh. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Looking forward to our talk today.
Absolutely. Me too. If there's anything that gets me excited, it's California sportswear.
It's California sportswear. We want to give a special shout out to our friends joining us from the East Coast.
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys need this California dreaming more than anybody.
I know. I was going to say yesterday I felt really, really bad because I was like, it's cold, it's gray, but it's like 60 in the 60s. So sorry.
Sorry, everybody. But we're here to bring you a little bit of sunshine. I was just telling our audience that today we're going to be talking about our 2016 exhibition, Sun-Drenched Style, which was a favorite of both Leigh and myself. And this was actually before Leigh officially joined the FIDM Museum family, but she was involved in other ways, which we're going to talk to you about. So we're just going to talk about how the exhibition came together, the themes of it, the designers involved, and show you some pictures and just give you a nice behind the scenes look at how this show came together and why California style and California sportswear is so important to both of us.
Absolutely. So Joanna, tell me, how did this become an idea for you?
So, I was thinking about this. This was the first exhibition that I kind of took the lead on for the museum. I had only been there for about 2 years when we started this project. And I think it started with, now Kevin and Christina, if you're on, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that we had been tossing around the idea of doing something with like swimwear and California design. And then Christina Johnson, our associate curator, told me about these library, the FIDM library special collections. And they had all of these materials about promoting California sportswear and the California designers in the mid-century. So we made an appointment and we looked at all of that. And I couldn't believe the resources and how much California was used as a selling point, which I know we're going to get into a little bit more. And there was this booklet about California designing women, and it really highlighted the female designers. And I'm always somebody who's looking to tell the story of, strong, smart women. And so really, I think it was that little booklet that inspired this idea to do just women designers. And then from there, it was really like a process of elimination, just based on the objects that we actually had in our collection, who we were able to represent based on what we had. Because this wasn't an exhibition where we were going to be, getting loans or anything like that.
Right.
And that's how we ended up with the ladies that we showcased.
Which is a wonderful and rare array of pieces, I have to say. In the background of research that I've been interested in this material for a long time as well, but in my research, it's extraordinary that there was like a quote I read out of Look magazine, which is a national magazine, but it's headquartered in New York. It's not a California-based or regional magazine in any way. And they did a huge, in 1946, a whole article on California and the West and how it was just this burgeoning superpower almost. And one of the amazing quotes that figures that they shared was that it was a $500 million business, the California fashion industry, in 1946. I don't know what that translates to in today's time. I did not look that up, but that's a tremendous amount of money generated by the fashion industry in California. However, I find it very rare and difficult to find some of the pieces offered on the market. The vintage market is it's very active and people are selling things all the time. And, California labels do pop up, but some of the designers that you featured in the exhibition, which I know you're going to tell us about a little bit more, they're very hard to find. And so to be able to start off with an amazing museum collection that has excellent representation and not just, an example, but an amazing example is something that I thought when you started showing me what was going to be in the exhibition, I was like, this is so exciting.
Yeah. I remember in our presentation on the lecture day that we did, I kind of did, enticed people, if you have these designers or if you know about them or if you know where we can find more, because you're absolutely right. It's hard. I was surprised at how hard it was to find other objects and then also to find out information about the designers themselves. So there's a call to action to all the researchers here. This is a field, this is an area that there still is so much to be done with. We always talk about, you know, fill the bookshelves. And so this is for sure an area of research with these designers that often get overlooked. And I think that was kind of my thesis of the exhibition, was the unique contributions of these women to this field of California sportswear. And it was their proximity to these lifestyles that made them, you know, so equipped to design the clothing that women were demanding from, you know, from the West Coast way of life.
Right.
And really embracing sportswear. And, you know, often we hear about Tina Leaser, we hear about Claire McCardle, as we should, obviously.
Absolutely.
but you know, it was really, really interesting to read about the contributions of these other women. And then also, you know, on the side note, also highlighting selling California. And that was another thing that really took me back when I started the research, was just how much it was almost like this utopian ideal that was sold as the California dream and this
right.
of like golden opportunity. And I was so delighted to see some of the ways that they described living in California.
And the marketing machine was strong back then, as it is now, I'm sure. But in a way that it was promoting this glamorous lifestyle that was, you know, Hollywood adjacent. So there's always that aspect of celebrity and glamour, but also just this carefree lifestyle where, you know, you can access so many different kinds of outdoor activities. You can be on the beach in the morning and in the mountains skiing in the afternoon. It is actually doable. I'm not sure about it, but you know, or depending on traffic, really. But it is something that it makes Southern California in particular very this kind of dreamy place. And yes, it was a marketable commodity, and so you could buy a pair of slacks that would have just that little, like a California label in it, and it would make you feel like you were participating in something something special.
Yeah, it's like that aspirational lifestyle, right? Like if you buy Chanel perfume, you are in the Champs-Elysees or something.
Right.
If you buy
the transportative qualities of buying into fashion on whatever level that is. And, you know, like you're saying, like a Chanel perfume is an easy way to access the Chanel concept at a price point that most people can afford. And, you know, some of the sportswear was a little more expensive depending on, you know, the designer or the elements involved, but it was accessible, very accessible.
Now, Leigh, how did you become involved with Sun-Drenched Style?
When we first, well, not when we first met. I know we first met before this point, but when we first reacquainted,
yes,
shall we say, you had contacted me. I think maybe Kevin or Christina suggested that, you know, you come over to LACMA, which was at that time I was at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and a curatorial assistant in the costume and textiles department, and I discovered sort of early on this incredible treasure trove that very few people know about or care about or use, but it was like my fun time reading, which was a publication called the California Stylist. And the museum back, I forget what the accession date was, but, you know, 20 or more years ago, received a donation of an almost complete run of this publication, which was a trade magazine. It wasn't widely circulated, which is why it's very hard to find still. But we had this incredible treasure trove starting in the 1930s, mid-1930s, I believe, and running through the 60s and beyond. And it's just filled with all of the information you would need to put an exhibition together like you did. So you contacted me and I said, I'd be happy to guide you through the California Stylists. I mean, I don't have any other work to do, I'm sure.
I mean, it is so amazing. And I mean, yeah, I don't know if people know just how difficult it is to find these magazines. And
like and for example, I have one to show you. I have so few of these in my personal collection because you cannot find them. There's just rare, rare, rare. So I'm just going to hold this up for you.
Oh, gorgeous.
The California Stylist.
And stripes, my favorite.
Yes, and stripes, just for you, Joanna.
Oh,
but it's from 1957, and it shows it's pre-Easter swimsuits.
Oh my gosh.
And they're just publications that are completely filled with advertisements from manufacturers, advertisements from fabric design manufacturers, marketplace information, where they're showing collections, market week reports, basically everything you would need to know about the Southern California or California fashion industry would have been encapsulated in your monthly issue. And so you came, you made your appointments, and you came to delve into the collection, and you really powered through. I can't remember how many volumes you went through, but
I just was sitting there just and you know, like making chicken scratch on what you're finding, but it really was so invaluable. I mean, so invaluable. First of all, it was some of the only mentions, you know, besides in our FIDM special collections, the information that I found on the designers, but you don't really see these designers mentioned a whole lot in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, you know, LA Times, yes.
True.
New York Times a little bit, but really like interviews, what are they working on? Where are they traveling to? So, and then also just the styling, having those photographs, and we'll talk a little bit more about styling later, but, you know, I remember taking so many like reference photos, even if it wasn't the designer I was working on, just, okay, how are the jeans rolled? What belts are they wearing? You know, all of that was just so invaluable. And that's also where I pulled a lot of these just, you know, effusive quotes about California.
Absolutely.
I wrote a few down, so I'll share them later, but just the verbiage was so inspiring and kind of helped shape this idea of, like I said, the California utopia that we were selling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's how I started to learn about the project. I remember we went to lunch and you showed me, you know, the beginnings of your gallery plans and photos of some of the pieces in the FIDM Museum collection. And I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see this exhibition. And then, much to my delight and surprise, you turned around and asked me if I would speak at the FIDM Museum Fashion Council luncheon, which was the debut of the exhibition, and it's one of our annual fundraising events, which we hope to resume at some point, you know, when it's safe to resume those activities. We have wonderful luncheons and teas and, you know, these experiences that we can offer to our supporters in terms of bringing scholars and lecturers and experts in to talk about these things. And I was really, really flattered and honored that you thought highly enough of me to do it.
Of course.
And I loved it because it was just one of those things also that gave me permission and an opportunity to put together a focus on of course, maybe you know by now, some of you specifically surely know this by now. I'm very interested in textiles. That's an understatement. I'm extremely interested in textiles and developments and design and fiber technologies and advances and all these things. And the California Sportswear gave me this opportunity to really tell a story about American fashion in general, but more specifically what California designers were embracing. And they seem to always be on the vanguard of taking in a new type of, you know, textile made out of some crazy, you know, miracle fiber and doing amazing things with it. So I got the chance to sort of delve into that and indulge myself. And it's allowed me to really explore a lot more of these designers and textile manufacturers and things like that. So that was great. I really, really was so happy to, and it was like I said, it's my first taste of the FIDM Museum family. And it was.
We didn't scare you off too much.
No, you didn't scare me.
Well, and so I can talk a little bit, you mentioned like the exhibition plans and things like that. I can talk a little bit about how that came together. First of all, just think that everything that we do at the museum, we're a very small team, so everything is a collaboration. And especially being that this was my first exhibition, taking the lead on, you know, Kevin and Christina were with me every step of the way.
Yeah.
And then our former creative director, Peter Lamb, did an amazing job with the exhibition design. Carolyn Jamerson, our incredible mount maker. So I do have, we're going to try, this is new, guys.
New technology.
We're trying new technology. I'm going to share photos from my phone. So we'll see how this works. I tried to crop them so that my little noggin wouldn't get in the way here. So I have, like, this is, okay, that works pretty well.
Hey, that's great.
This is Peter's exhibition layout. It's a smaller space. This exhibition was in our OC gallery. So you can see this is where he's mocked up our exhibition design. And I'll show you a few pieces from the library that he really based this on. And then here's my little plan. This is, we get just very beta with this. We like cut out actual pictures of the objects. We go through the boxes, take photos, you know, tape them on a floor plan, move them around. You have to be, I mean, I'm a very tactile person. And so I had to be able to see things and be able to kind of switch it around that way and see how we were going to group it.
And this, I would say that, at least in my experience so far, I feel like this is how a lot of curators operate. It is very, you know, cut and paste at the beginning. You know, eventually you do elevate it to, you know, CAD designs and, you know, elevations and all these fancy things on a computer. But to really start out, you get these tiny thumbnail pictures and you start moving them around and you see how things might look together and just keep moving things until you get the right arrangement.
Yeah, and you know, and Christina Johnson, she showed me, like, she always starts in Excel. So I started out the whole thing with an Excel with little snapshots in there of all of the possible objects, and then, you know, eliminating, and then once we kind of eliminated there, and that also really helped keep track of all the information. So when you're making your text panels and your chats and everything, you've got it all in one place. And then I do want to show you a few of the inspirations for the exhibition design that Peter used, like this one in particular. I remember the fonts and the colors and everything was like a party. This is the greatest, California, the greatest theme in America for fashion presentation. Talk about that for no hyperbole there, right?
No. The greatest.
The greatest, yeah. And then here is, this is one of those labels that we talked about. This is a California creation. And I'll just quickly read to you what it said on the inside of this. So these were labels that would sometimes be attached to, you know, objects that you would, or garments that you would buy, made, you know, Louella or whoever made it. It says, born in the imagination of designers as free and breezy in their concepts as the land and sky from which they take their colors. Styled with a creative newness that makes California a world all its own. I mean, I just love this language.
I do too. I'm sold.
Yeah. And it's also so, you know, the colors, like everything that they, you know, things would be like, of course I'm drawing a blank now, but it would be like, you know, desert sand and just even the
absolutely
colors,
well, a lot of the fabric manufacturers actually put together very specific collections that were like mission clay tones or desert rock.
Yes.
Or even there was one, I think it was Lab Techs who did this, and I might be wrong, but nobody's going to really care if it was Lab Techs or another company at this point. But one of the manufacturers put together one that was all keyed to different agricultural products that you might see like as you were driving through the coastal valleys. And it was like avocado and almond brown and, you know, raisin red. So there was something just, you could pluck different sources of inspiration for color palettes all throughout California. And that could be from so many different strands you could bring together. So yeah, absolutely. The colors were, and the color names were very evocative as well.
And then here you can see like the palm trees that that Peter designed really matched some of that special collections material. Here's another, you can kind of see that a little bit closer. And the fonts and even the little buttons that we wore on the day of the lecture, those were based on it. So it all, you know, it all kind of came from that source of inspiration.
Yeah. And that sunny yellow is just so important because I feel like it did carry through a little bit in the clothing. And it is the color of California, the Golden State. We have great things to export, and that would be sun.
Yeah. And so let's see, what else should we talk about? Should we talk a little bit about Hollywood, and I mean, that was sort of my introduction to California design. I wrote my thesis on Walter Plunkett. You can watch that
Right.
IGTV, a different conversation.
Right.
So that was my introduction, was costume design, and how the Hollywood industry really kicked off the, you know, the California apparel industry, and and how that in turn gave this kind of, as you mentioned, shiny, glamorous aura to California. And I also think a sense of authority, which we were lacking before, perhaps.
Right, right. I think it's true. A lot of the costume designers, very prominent costume designers in Hollywood in the 30s started to have this twinkle in their eye about whether they would have their own fashion lines. And so you have you know, people like my personal hero is Adrian.
Yes.
He transitioned very easily from the silver screen to his own boutique in Beverly Hills. And, you know, his clients would come for a bit, like, to just get that tiny bit of Hollywood glamour that they could actually wear and take home. But he had an unusual style, and maybe it wasn't for everybody. It wasn't as conservative as perhaps, you know, other designers were, but he gave people that bit of excitement and whimsy and Hollywood magic. And then you have designers like Irene as well, also had her own boutique in the Bullocks-Wilshire building, and she took over for Adrian at MGM after he departed. There was Howard Greer and Travilla, and I mean, just a lot of Hollywood designers that went on to have their own successful fashion lines. And then we have represented in our collection as well some really outstanding pieces. But I think your point was that you really liked to single out the women in this picture.
Yeah, I think so. You know, again, I always want to try to tell strong female stories. And I do think also these were women that we hadn't heard. I wasn't even familiar with some of the names that I was seeing in these, like I said, these special collection materials. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to champion them and show their contributions. You know, I think another thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the movie magazines. So Photoplay, Silver Screen, and how important those would have been in, again, giving this air of authority to California design and familiarity with the whole California sportswear lifestyle.
Absolutely. And I think it was really valuable that these, you know, nationally circulated magazines like Photoplay had a lot of features on the Hollywood stars at home. And so they were regularly in bathing suits or just casual attire, barbecuing, or, you know, lounging in their incredibly stylish, you know, California architecture was pretty amazing in that period. And everybody was clamoring for the latest design, you know, architects, stylists to come in and redo their entire environment. And then they had to look the part to match it. But it was always this very easy breezy kind of style, nothing too conservative or fussy or inaccessible. So yes, I think that the magazines like that absolutely promoted a California lifestyle and really helped an average American picture how they would be working something like this into their own lives. I have one other magazine I can show that is more of a lifestyle magazine, but it was actually published by the same publisher as California Stylist. So there's a lot of overlap. They do, actually, some of them have the same fashion content, which is why I also try to collect those, but they're not easy to find either. But here's this is the Californian. And
yes.
So this is a magazine that was, what do you think, selling the California lifestyle.
Are we going to sound like a broken record by the end of this?
I know. But I mean, imagine. So this one I think is really funny because it's addressed to somebody in Arlington, Virginia.
Wow.
Okay. So somebody thought enough of, I want to know what's happening in California all the way across the country. And maybe they were, you know, thinking about buying a second home in Palm Springs for you know, the winter season. I have no idea why this person had the Californian in Virginia, but I'm guessing it was just something that people were very attracted to in this period. And it had other tips on, like, you know, it had architectural spreads. It had cooking, you know, what we're eating out here and how to have a California like salad or whatever it was, people were buying it. Absolutely.
The avocado toast of the 1930s, whatever.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I do want to talk a little bit about, we've been saying so much about outdoor activities, and I think in general, as I'm sure everyone will be able to learn in our sporting fashion exhibition, traveling shortly, just the emphasis on the healthy lifestyle and outdoor activities, specifically starting in the 1930s, I think is when you really start to see it popularized. Yeah. And the effect that also, the attention that also brought on, on California as America's playground. How many times have we seen it described as that? I have to share, this is my favorite photo, probably, of the 1930s. This is Martin Munfashi, and from a Harper's Bazaar spread. And it was one of the first fashion photographs of somebody in action, running and showing movement. She's tall, she's tan, you know, she's obviously very muscular. And so I think all of that also gave gravitas to this, you know, California, this ideal of California.
Oh, absolutely. And let's not forget that also in 1932, Los Angeles hosted the Olympics.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that brought a lot of national attention to California, and promotions were really buzzing around it. I mean, I think I've seen, actually where I live is in a little area called View Park, and it was actually the site of the men's Olympic Village before it got developed.
Oh, wow.
So we have this connection here as well. But yeah, and I look at a lot of vintage ads for this time period just because I'm interested in it personally. And everything has like oranges on it. Everything has orange groves, orange blossoms, sunshine, palm trees, and oranges. And, you know, what kind of a picture does that send to people, for example, who are living on the East Coast? It's like, well, maybe that is my next holiday destination. And something else interesting that happens, and this still is ongoing, so once somebody from the East Coast dips their toe in the Pacific, a lot of people tend to stay.
Leigh, where did you and I both move to California from?
New York. I mean, I will say I was born here. Yes, I am a native.
Yes, that's true.
But I lived in New York for 20 years, and I was like, I've had my last winter. Cannot do one more. And luckily, my husband agreed that we would give California another try. And so here we are, and I'm looking out my window, and it's sunshine's blazing, and it may be 70 today. I don't know. But yeah.
There has been so many transplants throughout California's history. And actually, one of the things we realized, Leigh and I, in chatting about the exhibition, I don't think I pointed this out necessarily in the text panels, but all of the designers we featured were California transplants. So no natives represented, but
I think it's a really fascinating aspect that, you know, to be a Californian designer, do you need to be a Californian? I think the answer is no. You just need to come here and experience what it's like to live the lifestyle. And that lifestyle is mostly casual, mostly active. And it's not especially different than what is happening, you know, in other places. Everybody wants to have the casual look at this point. I mean, that's part of why, I mean, American fashion becomes dominant in this period as we are cut off from Europe during World War II. We need to look at our own homegrown talent to start leading the way. And once that happened, I don't think the world ever looked the same. Once Americans and practical needs took over from high fashion, the haute couture, and we weren't following Paris for our cues or Italy for our cues, we did our own, and now the world thanks us.
Yeah, this idea of the American look, and in particular, play clothes and sportswear, and what better place than these California designers to encapsulate that function, but also, you know, obviously incorporating so much beauty into it as well.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to mention, before we kind of dive into the actual exhibition photographs, we talked about architecture. And this was something that was really important to me and inspiring as we were putting together the exhibition. If you guys don't know, the photographer Julius Schulman, who was responsible for capturing so many of these astounding mid-century architectural masterpieces, the homes, the case study homes, which was a competition or a project, I guess, set forth by the Los Angeles Arts and Architecture magazine. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the case study homes. Julius Schulman is the one who captured so many of those. And I thought it was really important to put the clothing in context. And luckily, the Getty has very generously made these photographs available to people free for use, I guess is the word. So I'm going to share with you one. And what I thought was so interesting is in all of these photographs and in the structures, you can see the seamless, I guess, structure of indoor and outdoor space and how people could really transition back and forth between them, and why that was reflected in the clothing as well. Absolutely. So we had in our exhibition a wall of 6 Julius Schulman photographs of these California spaces to really show how the clothing would have been worn and why they were designed the way they were.
It's true. I think that the context is everything. We really regularly in this field consider clothing in its own unique way, and it's divorced from its settings. We just see them in gallery spaces, we isolate them, but to see clothes on people in interiors where, you know, you can see the either harmonious or dissonant relationship between the clothing style and the architectural style or the furnishing styles, I think that brings everything to life. And it's something I always love to think about, just the context of everything, like in a holistic way. I think it was a great addition to the exhibition. Yeah, and I would want to move it. I want to move into any one of those photographs.
I know. I think they're still behind the gallery, and I'm always like, oh, what can happen with those? Just kidding. So should we move on and talk a little bit about the designers featured?
Absolutely.
So we started out with Luella Ballerino. And I know she is one of your favorites. I'll show you guys. Might have seen this photograph was in our in the post advertising this talk. So the crop top is Louella, and I didn't put it on my phone, but we do have a photograph of the donor wearing this crop top. It's applique, and we found a couple of matches also in California. I think we found in California Style. Yeah, California Stylist.
California Stylist, yes. Luella was amazing. Again, she studied at USC. She was really noted for a scholarly and respectful attitude towards unusual source material, which is sort of code for she was almost always influenced by world cultures. These could be very localized in terms of, like, it could be a Spanish colonial or Mexican indigenous influence. It could be folk art from Eastern Europe and Czechoslovakia and Hungarian folk dress, South American, Bolivian, Peru. She drew on a lot of inspiration, and none of it particularly, I mean, I think that she's the inspiration and the sort of respectfulness is that none of it is mistakable for another culture's indigenous dress or dress code. It was really interpretation, and it was a way that she could adapt certain things that she found ornamentally attractive to a modern American woman's lifestyle. And that, I mean, these two pieces, we showed the crop top. The midriff was a big thing in the 40s. This dress is absolutely just simplicity, but stunning. I think, and I haven't been able to pinpoint the source of this fabric, but I suspect it might have been woven by a Los Angeles-based weaver named Mariah Kipp, who was, like Dorothy Liebes, a hand weaver and had her own studios, and she outfitted a lot of the major architectural projects, you know, for like Rudolf Schindler. She wove curtain material for all the like different department stores like Bullock's Wilshire. Anyway, I think that might be one of her fabrics because It's just the quality and the style, but I have to do more research on that one when I have time.
This type of kind of rough, like hop sacking material was very Luella. Like this was something that she went back to a lot.
Yes, and I think it aligns very well with her sort of rustic aesthetic. Although she can be very sophisticated, and like the applique work is very sophisticated in pattern and design. But yes, she did like sort of a more rough, less refined aesthetic as well. We have one other. I'm going to show you a Luella Ballerina ensemble. Ooh la la.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. She is going to be featured in our Sporting Fashion Outdoor Girls 1800 to 1960 catalog, which will be coming out in March. So if any of this appeals to you, you will find some treasure California design within this catalog. And this is a jacket that she trimmed. I don't think she wasted any trim here. She put it all there. It is with these wool braid appliques and these like little metallic buttons. And to me, it has a very South American influence, and possibly some of the trim that she used was actually produced in South America.
Oh,
so
yes. And
it's that kind of aesthetic.
There's so many mentions of her, like, where's she going next? Like, oh, Ms. Ballerino is traveling to Peru, or she's traveling to Costa Rica, or wherever.
Right. She was very well known for this adventurous approach to globalizing design.
And she did actually she worked with Jansen for a couple of years in the 1940s. Yes. And Leigh, I know you'll be interested, or probably know more about this, that she worked with Bates fabric to design, again, some like Polynesian and Hawaiian inspired fabrics.
Yes, indeed. She worked with Bates fabrics, and they didn't do a lot of modern design textiles, but the collection that they did, she used very, very effectively. They're very like modern art inspired, abstract, but some of them are more like Polynesian, sort of a sea coral design that she used for a bathing suit, and then like a Polynesian tapa style print as well. So yes, she used prints, but she also was great with just like almost this approach to like a strict color palette with just some accents of bands of color, which leads me to, I think, another designer that I also absolutely love, and it was specifically known for her use of color, which is Addie Masters.
Oh, let me move on to Addie Masters. Holding. Yes, Addie Masters was our, let's see. She was our middle, our star in the middle of the, let's see, this is actually.
Yes, there she is. She's amazing. She's like in the before the war came along, and there were new restrictions imposed with L85 and how much fabric you could use for a garment, and sweeps of hemlines and trims and lots of different regulations that were meant to conserve fabric and labor. She was very well known for these flowy hostess pajama sets. With the pants are so wide that I can't remember how many yards of fabric were used to make them, but they were very, very flowy. But her skill was to have simple lines and extremely sophisticated use of color. Whether it's like for this yellow palazzo pajama set, it's this just glorious color with a really cool abstract pattern. In silk. So it's a simple material, just showcasing the material, and the lines of the design let it do its work. But she also did a lot of color blocking, and in really electric shades like turquoise and yellow together, or cherry and purple, and just very, very vivid colors that really set her apart from some of her other peers. She did use prints as well, but I think her color blocking and just that emphasis on glorious color is something that I love her work. for that
Yeah,
reason.
and what I loved is that she herself loved hosted. They called her the ultimate hostess. She loved entertaining. She loved this idea of the indoor-outdoor space. So, you know, her clothes really did truly go from the kitchen to the cabana, as they say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, you know, obviously during World War II with the restrictions, she had to slim her silhouette again. But then this is I think, circa 1959, and so we're seeing that huge, and that's classic Kevin Jones styling. That's holding the leg back like that, so you can see the bifurcation in the pants. And then somebody mentioned this lovely pin that we have going on here. This is actually so it's a silver, and I'm totally going to say this wrong. Chrysocolla, am I saying that right?
Chrysocolla.
Chrysocolla. And it's actually a pendant, and this is a little museum magic. We used museum wax to put a very strong magnet on the back. And so it is, it's attached to this separated scarf with a magnet. So behind the scenes info.
Yeah, you put the magnet behind, and then you put the magnet on the pin, and then, or the pendant, and then voila.
Voila.
No stabbing through silk required.
No stabbing through silk. This is by the artist Antonio Pineda, and it's from 1960.
Yeah, we have an outstanding I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, please go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say we have an outstanding Mexican silversmith jewelry collection in the FIDM Museum collection that will be the subject of future discussion, I'm sure. But yeah, you did, maybe you want to take this opportunity to tell us a little bit about your styling choices.
Well, I was just going to say we were really lucky to be able to have this collection to draw from to style these mannequins. I will say the styling was probably where I needed the most help. Luckily, Kevin and Christina are so well known for doing these head-to-toe looks to show how an ensemble would have been worn. And that was something that I wasn't trained in. And so they helped me so much going through the collection and seeing what would work. So I really have to thank them for these amazing styling choices. And I learned so much. One of the things I absolutely love this ensemble by Addie. This is the kind of that bathing with the sari skirt. The Far East was definitely a huge source of inspiration for many designers in this time. You see it all over the magazines, in photo shoots and in advertisements. Leigh and I were talking a little bit about this yesterday. Definitely some of the advertisements veer on the side of a little bit of stereotypical imagery. I think this skirt itself is, you know, it's using the sari silk, and it's kind of that idea of being able to it's a wrap skirt. So just being able to take the skirt off, and we styled it with a bathing suit.
Love it.
And this is actually, again, I think, oh wait, here I have a better picture of it. So this is a Rudy Gernreich bathing suit, and this was Christina's idea. We really try not to do props in our exhibition. So I think I had originally found like a prop top to go with it because I was very determined to get this specific neckline. I was basing it on a photograph that I saw in California Stylist, which I can show you. And well, I can't find it exactly right now, but I'll show you. Here's one. This is just one. But so I saw this. This was Addie Masters, and I really wanted this exact neckline. And Christina had the great idea to pair it with a Rudy Gernreich, who is also a Los Angeles-based designer, so that works. And and also really emphasizes that idea. Oh, here it is. Oh, I just love this picture so much.
Yes.
And so we did, you know, the sandals and the full skirt, and then the, you know, the fitted top. I was really, really proud of how that one turned out.
Oh my God. And I just love, there's so many opportunities to see the jewelry styling. It was really popular in this period to put a bangle all the way up your arm.
Yes. I'm going to, so our last Addie Masters that I'll show you, we have this piece, which you can't exactly see the detail too much, but it's an embroidered, it's kind of a wagon, westward ho, the wagon, seen on the back there. And we think this was probably a tourist piece. So something that, souvenir clothes that you would buy when you were in California.
It's a little, I mean, in what I've seen of her work, it's a little outside the general scope of what she does. And so when you first look at it, you think, oh, it must be one of the Western brands who's done this shirt. But then you start looking at the details, and, you know, there aren't, to my knowledge, very many ladies' Western shirts that have that kind of billowy sleeve. It's much more of a fashion shirt than it is a Western shirt. even though it has the Western theme emblazoned across it, it's still more fashion than it is ranch wear.
Yes, yes, yes. You're not going to exactly wear your like sequins and beads on the ranch.
Right,
and then
right.
we do have it styled, you know, again, she's wearing heels, she's wearing a pencil skirt, but she has this beautiful leather tooled purse and the silver
silver belt. Yeah. No, it's a look. I mean, I know that some of the people who are tuning in because they're vintage fashion lovers are looking at that and saying, yes, head to toe, I'll take it. For that. And yeah, I think it's you can take your cues from the styling in the magazines, and I think that is a great way for researchers to approach this project, to see that holistic view of how everything lives together. And it's a great resource for people who love vintage style as well.
I'm going to move on to our bathing suits that we featured. I want to show you the work of our amazing mount maker, Carolyn Jamerson. This is just a bit of her work in progress with making the bathing suit mounts. They're so
amazing.
Beautiful. And she's just, you know, we've talked a little bit about Carolyn. You can see some of her tutorials on mount making on our YouTube page. But here is a picture of them when they were completed. So actually they're in process here. So we're really lucky that she was able to bring them to life. I'll start with Margeet Philippe. I'm going to say it so wrong. Say it, Leigh. Margeet Philippe. Beligi. Hungarian born. Hungarian name. And she worked for Coal of California for her entire career. She was hired in 1936 to 1972. And she was born to Hungarian immigrant parents in St. Louis, but she was a dancer in Chicago and also a former costume designer. So when I learned those two things, I thought, oh, well, that explains so much, because she knows how the body moves, and she knows, again, there was this great quote where she was talking about how bathing suits needed to fit, because if they don't fit well in the back, you get a wiggle waggle. It's like, oh God, don't we all?
We don't want that wiggle waggle.
I know.
We all know about the wiggle waggle.
So she really understood how the body moved, and I think her experiences as a dancer really helped her design. This particular suit is circa 1940, and what I think is really interesting is you can see that lacing up in the front. Well, if any of you watched Leigh's talk last week with Michelle Major, they talked about the swoon suit, which was also made by Coal of California. And I kind of think of this as a little bit of the precursor to the swoon suit, because it has that really amazing lacing.
Yeah.
Another great material. So this is this blue suit here is made from matte latex, which was a material that Margeet word of the day, wiggle waggle. Yes, indeed. This is a material that Margeet basically came up with during her time at Coal of California. It's cotton sheared with latex. Am I getting that right, Leigh?
With latex, yes.
Latex.
So essentially, it is a plain weave fabric. Not to this date, you know, both Coal of California and Catalina, the two major California-based swimwear companies. Jansen was not based in California, but those two companies started out of knitting mills. So early bathing suits were mostly knit, and eventually they started looking at different types of fabrics. And once the material of elastic and latex really starts coming in, you can have different fit options and fabric options. One of the earlier solutions was this matte latex, which is sort of a play on matelassé and latex. So you have them together, and it is a fabric with which a special machine comes in and stitches the elastic thread to it, like repeatedly, and then it basically shrinks it, but it can expand. So it's an elasticated material, but it hugs the body perfectly. And so you can see that in this bathing suit, you see the ruched panel in the middle, which is just plain ruching. And then the sides are all the matte latex.
And I know Carolyn had a really tough time mounting this one because it had expanded over time and it had been stretched out. So she really had to do a lot of work to get it to look that beautiful. Yeah. And you had an amazing discovery. Unfortunately, this was after the exhibition, but I'll show you. We did, unfortunately, my little screen is covering it, but we did
peek around you.
I know. Sorry, guys. I tried to crop it as much as I could. You did see that Esther Williams had worn this exact suit. So I'll share this on our story so you guys can see.
Perfect. And if you go back and if you haven't seen my talk with Michelle, I did feature this more prominently as well. So go back and see that if you haven't seen it.
Yes, it's on our stories YouTube page. Yeah. Very easily. Yeah. So I'll cut. We only have 10 minutes left, Leigh. I don't know how that happened.
Where's Rosemary? Where's Agnes?
Yes.
We got to get to those ladies.
We got to get to Rosemary Reed. So Rosemary Reed is so interesting. She is actually she was a Canadian born and she was Mormon. And I thought that was an interesting play on kind of this idea of being revealing and showing the skin and making women look, sexy and beautiful with her rather conservative religious beliefs. And ultimately, in the 1960s, it was what caused her to sell her company because she just she wasn't interested in getting into like bikinis and kind of the skimpier looks of the 1960s. Her whole aesthetic was glamour, the dressmaker suit, showing these bathing suits that were almost like evening gowns. And in fact, she would design them with accessories that they could, like a wraparound skirt or a stole that they could, wear these bathing suits by the poolside and look just completely dressed to the nines. She also introduced a couple of really interesting fabrics, photopermeable fabric, which was meant
I love that.
It was meant to allow you to tan through your swimsuit. I believe this had mixed results. And then also she waterproof velvets she also introduced, and I'll show you. So we have this this beautiful lace. I mean, you're not getting in the pool in this. This is your, you're going to look super glamorous and beautiful by the pool. And in fact, in her ads, if any of you have seen her advertisements, I mean, you can find them on Pinterest or something, but they are so glamorous. I love her ads. In fact, in the exhibition, we showed one of her fashion show booklets. They're so beautiful. And one of the lines on one of her advertisements is one for sea, one for sun, one for psychology. So you need your 3 separate suits. You can't get away with just one. Here's another one with this beautiful, this is actually embroidery on there, machine embroidered, and then it had a faggoting technique. Those lines that you see are actually this really beautiful faggoting technique, and it would give it a little bit of stretch there. And she would use corsetry techniques, all of the same things that you use in evening wear, boning, bra cups, plastic.
And those lines also are just so flattering.
So true. Yeah, that like kind of princess seam there. She believed that women felt their most confident and beautiful in their evening gowns, and she wanted to give them that sense of confidence by the poolside as well. And you can also find so many Hollywood starlets that are not both in Cole of California and also Rosemary Reed. Jane Russell, Marilyn Monroe, Rita Hayworth, they all were clients of Rosemary Reed. So she really had that Hollywood glamour down pat.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we still have Agnes. Let's wrap up the day with Agnes Barrett.
Agnes Barrett. So Agnes Barrett, she remains enigmatic to us. We couldn't even find her birth and death dates. There is really not a lot of information about her out there. So again, another call to research. You do find mentions of her. She's also a member of the Affiliated Fashionists, which we can talk about very, very quickly.
Yes.
And she was, of course, very well known for, outdoor wear, as all of these designers have, but she herself was an active horsewoman. We do know that in some of the articles that talk about her. So she kind of had this one-on-one understanding with wanting to feel comfortable in your outdoor activities. I would say her most well-known design is the Broomstick Skirt. And this is something that it's a garment that was already very much used in Navajo design and Native American clothing. So you do see in a lot of the newspaper articles that she invented this look, but we know for sure that this is not true. She adapted it from a very popular Southwestern style. It was called the broomstick skirt because it's made of this cotton calico. And when you washed it, you would wrap it around your broom handle with, you know, just bring it out like that, almost like a Fortuny, I guess.
Yeah, it's very similar.
You would let it dry, and your pleats were there, but they were, you know, they were worry free. That they were supposed to be creased like that.
I read in a article that, you know, it might look as if your broomstick skirt was a parasol sitting in the corner, because but once you had wrapped it around, once you'd wetted it and wrapped it around the broomstick and you left it to dry, it did have sort of a look like it was a parasol.
Oh my gosh.
And it was 9 yards of fabric for the very lengthy ones. A lot of fabric. So these were very popular before the war.
Yes.
And she revived them again after the war, and they became very popular. And they have a little bit of like a folky, American calico look that's sort of more Americana.
Yes.
So she had it was grounded in sort of a Southwestern design, but it also embraced other aspects of American past culture to make it modern. And she did it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have ours is circa 1939, and it's like a velveteen top with it. And I just love the way we styled this one. Again, Kevin and Christina completely helped with this, but it's this
Renoir, Renoir, California.
Renoir, California cuff. So you want to tell us a little bit about Renoir?
And well, it was a new phenomenon in the mid-century period that copper became a very cool material to make jewelry from. And this comes, I would say, more out of the New York studio jewelry tradition, where avant-garde designers were working with less expensive materials than silver and gold and turning to things like aluminum and copper. And Renoir of California had a secondary line that was called Matisse. That was the line that was all enameled jewelry. And you can find this material. You can all start collecting like a museum at home. Just get on eBay or Etsy or on the internet and start looking for these pieces. They're not precious, and they're very attainable, and they're very cool. I have a huge collection of Renoir, and I love it, and I always get compliments on it. It's unusual and different, just like California fashion.
Okay, we're gonna quickly talk about the California fashionists. Let's see, I have their photos.
Yes, we have to mention that the 3 of our designers in this exhibition were members of a very special group of ladies called the Affiliated Fashionists. And it was like a trade organization that these women, it was 8 women. It fluctuated a little bit, but eventually what they decided to do was be almost like the welcoming committee for buyers from all over the country. And they worked together. There were no hierarchies in the organization. They all worked together as equals to promote not only their particular fashions, but also everyone's fashions. And understanding that if we work together, it's better for all of us.
Yeah, that sign of solidarity they would show together. Again, you nailed it. They thought of themselves as sort of like the hostesses of the fashion world, because there was the California Apparel Creators Group, and involved in that organization. But this was specifically women. The 3 women who were in it from our exhibition were Luella Ballerino, Agnes Barrett, and Addie Masters. You can see them there. But yeah, I just thought this was astounding that these women realized that together they would be able to promote more than they would separately. And so they would meet regularly, and they did work with Eleanor Lambert as well, who's really well known New York fashion world. So yeah, I thought that was a great sign of solidarity to sell this America's Playground clothing.
And we would be remiss in not mentioning Shelley Foote as somebody who has researched the, sorry, I'm losing my words, Affiliated Fashionists, and especially another designer who was a part of that group. Her name was Viola Dimmitt. And, if you just noodle around on the internet, you'll find bits and pieces about these amazing designers that were part of the Affiliated Fashionists and California fashion designers in general.
And Nancy Beale's book, right? She has Viola in there. She might be.
Yes, on American fashion. Nancy Dale's book on American fashion is really, that's a great resource for just American fashion in general. But, you know, it's interesting. There haven't been that many definitive books on California fashion. There have been a few, you know, more like the Schiffer guide books to like pricing vintage material.
And some exhibition catalogs on like design, like mid-century modern design.
Yes, and they have some fashion incorporated within it. But that's why, you know, we're really looking forward to Christina Johnson's project on Rudy Gernreich as an example of a designer that we have so incredibly well and personally represented in our archive. We're looking forward to that book to come out on the California fashion perspective. But, you know, I think it's a subject that is right for filling those bookshelves.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we wish you all good research.
Yes.
And of course, you can always reach out to the FIDM Museum for any research questions that you have. You can DM us here on Instagram, info@fidmmuseum.org. You can email. I'm Joanna Abijaoude. Somebody asked who we are. I'm Joanna.
Oh.
This was Leigh. And we've enjoyed, I can't believe how fast this hour went by.
It goes by, doesn't it?
So much fun, Leigh. So thank you so much. And
thank you for organizing such an amazing exhibition and having me be part of it in this way as well. So,
well, it was so much fun to revisit. I absolutely had a blast looking back through my notes and rediscovering these amazing women. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We won't be back with another collection conversation until after the holiday break. So look for some announcements about that in early January. We wish you all a very healthy, happy holiday break, and bring it on 2021. We're ready for you.
Stay safe out there, guys.
Yes, stay safe. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Leigh.
Thank you. Bye. All right, bye.